how to achieve goals, but you don't know exactly why they work or if they really do work or they're just good sounding ideas. Well, as you guys know, I'm all about critical thinking. I'm all about questioning when we hear a claim, questioning how it actually works. Does it work? Is there evidence for it? And there's almost no better evidence nowadays than machine learning. There's almost no better evidence of how to set goals and how to achieve goals than AI systems, specifically, well, more generally speaking, what's called machine learning. Why? Because machine learning systems, they achieve goals reliably, predictably, all the time, and things that are extraordinary. We think about things like, at MIT, backflipping robot dogs, dogs that can, these robot dogs that can walk over ice and slick surfaces and bumpy surfaces and all sorts of terrain. And also we think about things like, robots, Google DeepMind, for instance. These are soccer playing robots, Google DeepMind. You can look this up. And these soccer playing robots, they actually started out not knowing how to walk, okay? Not knowing how to really walk properly. They would get up and walk a little bit, fall down, all the way up to being able to tactically maneuver and score goals and literal goals, right? So here's the thing. If machine learning systems can do it, why do you feel stuck? Why do you personally feel stuck in not being able to hit your goals? And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to actually go through the 5 principles that are success principles, not because I said them, not because, I want to be some success guru, but we're going to investigate together these ideas, these really science-based ideas, and see how AI are using these principles, or machine learning, as I said, more generally, are using these principles to very reliably hit goals, learn things, learn incredible skills, do things above and beyond what most humans can do, right? And so let's take a look at this. So before we get into it, just who am I? My name's Stephen Petro, and of course, a little bit about my background. I've done, educational coaching, helping students get into top schools, top colleges, ran a test prep agency in New York City, a very successful one. Was building, prior to that, sales, doing sales training and building sales teams. So have a lot of experience in entrepreneurship, but I'm going to use that, and academia. I'm actually also a peer-reviewed author, peer-reviewed researcher, internationally published researcher. So what I'm going to talk today about, I'm using a little bit of these, both sides of my brain today, or both sides of my experience today, in terms of understanding how learning works. All right, the theoretical side, and also understanding how learning works on the really a very, very practical side in terms of building businesses, sales, learning new tangible skills that you're going to put into professional action. And so, okay, so this one, if you're on YouTube right now and you're looking at this with me on YouTube right now on live stream, you'll see what I'm showing you, and it looks very complicated. And I will not lie, this is very complicated. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this is the whole process of how, from learning how to, starting out walking to being a master soccer player, from, actually being on social media and the system learning what you actually enjoy consuming in terms of content, to robot dogs that can do backflips, and even AI systems that like Midjourney and other things that can actually create graphics from scratch. How do they do it? How do they all do it? What do they all have in common? They have this in common, which is called forward propagation. This whole system is called forward propagation. And understanding all the steps in this process of machine learning is going to help us understand what success is all about and how to be successful at whatever it is we want to be successful at, how to hit goals. So let's go through it a little bit. Let's actually go through the process. So principle 1 is try as many approaches as possible. Now, look at this. This is crazy, right? It looks really crazy, and it is really crazy. Good evening, Clara. Thanks for joining. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, this looks really, really crazy, and it is. But what's going on here? When a machine learns, and what can we take away from this ourselves, and how we can learn, and how we can achieve pretty much any goal, right? If it's physically possible, at least. What is this telling us? All right, I'm going to minimize it here because we don't need to see all the details. But the idea here is that when a machine learns, when AI learns, they try as many approaches as possible. They don't actually make any assumptions at all. In a sense, they're given what's called training data. They're given training data, which is, in our common speak, that would be a goal. They're given a goal to hit. And what they do is they say, I have no idea how to hit that goal, right? Pretty much. I'm just translating this into common speak. I have no idea how to hit that goal. I don't know anything. It's like it starts off at like toddler level understanding or less. I don't know. I don't know anything. So I'm just going to try a bunch of random stuff, right? I'm going to try a bunch of random stuff and ask ourselves, how many times in our experience have we been trying to go for a goal? And what do? We think, oh, what's the perfect way? What's the perfect way to hit this goal? Well, I need the perfect plan, right? We're always thinking about what's the perfect plan to put together. Well, we know from machines something very important. There really is no perfect plan. If we are starting from scratch, learning something or hitting a goal, don't plan so much. We have to try stuff out. We have absolutely no knowledge of what's going to work. We might have some guidance from people, right, who have already done the thing. That's important. But even within, let's say, sales, okay, let's just take sales or something as an example. And like, even within, if you get a principal from a mentor and they say, okay, sell, I don't know, sit down with 100 people and do 100 appointments, okay, or make 500 calls. Okay, you could do that. That's a principle. But even within that space, that's such a huge space where you have to try lots of different things. And the biggest mistake that people make, what's the biggest mistake that we make when we try lots of things? Is we don't log the results. Every time AI operates toward a goal, toward an outcome, what does it do? It logs the results. So when was the last time when, let's say, you were learning something new, trying something new, and you didn't actually, you got a result, but you didn't write it down. You didn't write down what that result was, right? You didn't record the result. Okay, on this try, this is what happened. That's maybe somewhere to start. And if we take anything practical out of this live today, that's a good place to start. Write down and record your results as you're trying things toward your goal. Very, very important, because you can actually look back. And this is why I'm also like a fan of journaling. I'm a huge fan of journaling, because even though maybe you're not going for a goal when you're journaling, you can actually look back at your journal. And I actually look back at my journal like from 6 months ago, because I journal every day. And I say, wow, like I'm learning so much from all the results that I got in the past, right? So you want to log all your results that you get, right? Let me know if that's a helpful concept. I want to know from you guys who are watching, how are you going to use this concept for what you're learning? And what are you learning right now? What are some of your goals right now? I actually want to hear from you guys. So yeah, let's keep going to, so yeah, I'm not going to go through all this. This is kind of complicated. That's an example. But principle 2. Okay, principle 2 is identify how much you deviated from the goal. So what AI does, or what machines do in general when they learn, is as they're going through the steps of identifying, trying lots of stuff, yeah, you want to you're okay, a competitive exam. So for instance, Clara, in that case, if you're doing a competitive exam, um so well, you've probably tried a lot of things already. You've probably tried a lot of approaches. But for instance, what would this look like here if you're trying to learn more better at a competitive exam? Well, trying more approaches might look like, okay, instead of just studying by myself, maybe can I try a study group? Okay, can I try? Does the professor or the teacher have office hours where I can go and sit with them? Are there other resources or textbooks or practice problems that I haven't done yet? Are there so there are a lot of, just keep thinking outside the box of like approaches that we can take if the approach that we're taking isn't working now. See, that's why AI is so smart. That's why AI outperforms. AI outperforms humans, because what do we do as humans? We're so stuck as humans because what do? We keep trying the same thing. AI already knows, don't try the same thing. Try the same thing, but adjust different things, right? But if we keep trying the same thing, and getting similar results, we need to adjust and try many different approaches, right? So that's the idea. That's why we get stuck as humans. That's why AI is outperforming us. All right. Don't say like, oh wow, backflipping robot, right? Or robots, ChatGPT can write a novel. Well, that's why. Because it's so good at this process, but we kind of suck at it. But we can get better at it as humans, right? We let our emotions get in the way. So principle 2 here is identify how much you deviated from the goal. So what machines do as they learn is they identify, they plug into what's called a loss function, right? So they plug the results that they got into what's called a loss function. I'm not going to get into all the mathy stuff here about it, but the idea here is it helps them identify mathematically, numerically, helps them measure, okay, how far off in terms of the result that I get, how far off am I from the goal? So let's say, because I know we got some students on here, and then we've also got probably people like working professionals on here. So let's say I'm working on a work project. I'll use work project as an example right now. Let's say I'm working on a work project, and I am looking to, make a presentation. And the presentation that I made, now we do the presentation, and the reception from the presentation was not good, was not what we expected. Well, identify what the expectations were and identify exactly how far I was from the expectation, right? And we want to identify that gap. So that's an important principle. Let's actually move forward in terms of the next principle. Okay. All right. This one is a big word, but I am going to break it down and make it relatable to everybody. So this is called back propagation. Okay. Don't get scared. I'm going to tell you. This is what AI does, and this is what we rarely do. We don't do this as humans. We don't do this. This is why machines are winning, guys. This is why machines are winning, because they do this and we don't. We let our emotions get in the way. It's called back propagation. What is back propagation? Well, have you ever heard of maybe reverse engineering? Anybody? Let me know if you've ever heard of reverse engineering. Basically, let me break it down. It's essentially taking retracing our steps. So we got a result. Now we want to retrace our steps, step by step. Okay, how did we get that result? So let's say it's an exam. Let's go back to the exam. Okay, yeah. Let's go back to the exam example. Okay, if I was shooting for an A and I got a B, or maybe I got a C. Okay, what was the step-by-step process that led me to the result? Now, it's hard. It might be difficult, but let's say you're on an exam. What you want to do is you want to go over that exam that you got the questions wrong. And I used to do this all the time with students when I was doing a lot of like test prep. And you want to ask yourself, okay, well, I got this question wrong. What mind state was I in? Was I rushing on this question? How did I do? Maybe did I make a calculation error at this step? Did I? We want to actually work backwards, and for each question, identify what was our process. What was our process? So let's say it's again that presentation, work presentation. Well, go through, and this is why it's good. Let's say if you're ever doing a presentation, it's actually really important. I really encourage everybody, if you're doing a physical presentation or doing any kind of a presentation, record yourself. That's why I actually go back and I listen to myself on the recordings here, and I'm very self-conscious about how I sound on camera. I'll be honest. All right, that's me being vulnerable with you guys, but I'm very self-conscious about how I sound on camera. So what I do is I will go back through the recording, and we should always go back through the recording and listen. Okay, what might I have adjusted at this point? What might have I adjusted at this point? How did I get this such poor reception? Right? And it's it's kind of a painful adjustment process, because you have to be very, very specific about identifying at each step. Let's say it's a 30-minute presentation. Well, record yourself, go back through it, and take notes on each step. And what you're going to do is, and this is important because it might be overwhelming, right? Okay, the next principle is going to solve all this, by the way, if you feel overwhelmed by that, because it might feel overwhelming to say, oh my gosh, I have to take notes on every single point that went wrong. Yes, at first you have to take notes on every single thing that contributed to the results. So Hare, welcome. Any book for hidden success principles? That's actually a good question. Any book for it? There are lots, but ones that are very, very science-based, what I can think of off the top of my mind, which it's a theory that still has, some development to go. It's not really perfect, but there's a Grit, by the book Grit, and it's a concept by Angela Duckworth, the researcher Angela Duckworth. You can look that up. It's a pretty good book, Grit. And it outlines her whole theory on, looking at over time, what are the principles, what are the common principles that lead people to achieve their goals. Now, once again, it's not perfect. In the social sciences, this is in the social sciences, right? When we talk about goal setting, we're talking about the social sciences, okay? Let's be real. So in the social sciences, keep in mind, that's why I'm very conservative when I talk about success principles, because we cannot just say, do this and you will achieve success. There are so many variables, okay? Oh, do this, this, and this, and you'll achieve success. However, those, you absolutely, lots of love to you too. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining in. So, what was I going to say? So Grit, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, Grit. So Grit. So it's very hard to say from a social science perspective that one thing, always causes another. It's very hard to find causality in the social sciences. It's not impossible. It's just very hard. So within these success principles like Grit, it's you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? And understand that this theory is still a work in progress. So read it with a little bit of skepticism. And that's what I encourage everybody to do. Use your critical thinking, right? This channel is about critical thinking. Whenever you're reading a text, don't just accept it as if it's just absolute truth. Ask questions, be an active reader, be an actively engaged person. When you watch my videos, right? When you watch any guru's video, or when you watch my videos, don't take anything I say as absolute truth. Ask your own questions, right? Ask your own questions. That's the idea. Use your critical thinking. We're all independent human beings. We can do it. So principle number 3, back propagation. That's the idea. All right, back propagation. So principle 4. Okay. Now, Yeah, absolutely. I will always respond to you guys. If you ever ask a question, I will always respond. If not right away, I will get to your response. Okay, because that's I wanna serve you all right. That's what I'm here for. So let me actually enlarge this real quick. Okay, so principle number 4. So if you found the idea of continuously, tracking, recording yourself, or taking a snapshot of your process and working backwards and meticulously tracking all the details of what went wrong or how you got the result you got. If you find that very overwhelming, don't worry, because this is going to solve that overwhelm for you. Because principle number 4, once you have everything on the table, once you have recorded all the steps in your process to your result, principle number 4 is identify the most important factor influencing the result. And that's what machine learning does. So what they do and what you're looking at here is what's called a partial derivative. Okay. Now, if you've ever, I'm not gonna like be too mathy here, but okay. But a partial derivative. What's the power of a partial derivative? The power of a partial derivative, and I get passionate about this because the power of a partial derivative is it's amazing. It actually helps us isolate the factor that contributed the most to the result mathematically. Oh, yeah. So Clara, so let's talk about, good question. So let's talk about how to implement this principle, right? Let's talk about how to implement this principle. So let's say you're on an exam, okay? And exam is a perfect example. Work presentation, we can use many examples, but let's just go with your exam example. Let's say we look at your test. Let's say you got a specific grade on the test, okay? And now what you want to do, which is what machine learning does, is take a look. Where did you get the most questions wrong? Maybe it's not a 1 point per question test. I don't know exactly what test it is, but if it's not a 1 point per question test, identify which questions that you got wrong would would give you the most points wrong, gave you the most points wrong. Go back and identify, let's say, maybe what was the most influential factor? Was it your pacing? Do you think maybe the way you were moving through the test was actually the biggest factor for you in terms of timing? Do you think maybe it was, let's say, you as you go through all the questions, you notice, let's say it's math, all right, just for the sake of it, at a certain step in the calculations, you're realizing that at this certain step, you keep messing up on this part. Okay, and there are like 10 of those questions, and then there are 5 others that you got wrong. Well, then what your focus should be is those 10 questions and practicing that very specific step, right? Being conscious at that very specific step. So you would then want to go design a practice set. And nowadays, you don't actually have to rely on the practice sets that are given to you by teachers or whatever's out there. You can go to ChatGPT and you can tell it, make me a practice set for XYZ subject that focuses on XYZ skill, right? For, let's say, in a work context, okay, let's say you did the presentation and again, we're trying to isolate what was the most important factor that influenced the result of how people in that room, in that meeting, received the information, right? Because there are a lot of factors. Could be, okay, how was I standing, my posture? How was my tone of voice? How were there too many words on the slides? Did I not maybe emotionally engage with the audience? Did I not give some specific examples that would have been more tangible? Was the presentation, was the topic not on what the audience wanted to hear about and wanted to hear, right? So there are so many ways to kind of dissect this. And then what we would want to do is go through all of those possible factors and say, okay, at first, it's hard to do it mathematically in that case. Okay, let's be honest. But for machines, they could do it, actually. It's interestingly enough. But it's hard for us to reverse engineer and retrace our steps in that sense with a work presentation mathematically. But what you could do is you can use your subjective intuition. And I talk a lot about intuition in other videos that I've done. And your intuition can be very powerful. Just make some assumption. Okay, what do I think maybe made the biggest impact? Maybe it was I didn't have enough examples, right? I think that maybe that was the biggest impact. Or you could even ask people in the presentation for feedback. They might be able to tell you, right? And so these are just some examples of how to use this in everyday life and how machine learning actually uses it, right? They isolate the most important variable, and then they work their way backwards, and that's how they achieve a goal. Because what they do is, remember how I talked about that machines, they log the data, they log the result. Every time they get a result, they log the result as a piece of data. And then what they're doing is when we're working backwards and retracing our steps and isolating the most important variable that created the result, what they do is they take that, and now that is that information that they got about, like, what was the most impact, what got the biggest impact on the result. They take that, and that's now new data that they plug into another series of tries, right? So in a sense, machine learning is just relentless. It's relentless. It doesn't give up, right? We always say, like, don't give up, right? But in a very real sense, it doesn't give up. Okay. And this is the point here. This is the overarching point. In order to let me enlarge this. So principle number 5 here is what's called iteration. Iteration. Okay. In other words, it's failing. It's failing. And I know we don't like to hear that, we should be failing more. But we should be failing more. So the idea in machine learning is that it actually works on a process of failing, right? Remember, we talked about that process. It works forward, right? It makes some assumptions. It tries a bunch of things, right? That's what it does. And then it identifies what's the most important variable, what's the most important variable that led to the result. How can we, if you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule, right? That's that. And then it works backwards and uses that as new data to try again, but not just try again once, try again many, many different times. So Aman, okay, thank you for your comment, Aman. So best habits we must have in our day-to-day life. Yeah. Well, actually, in our day-to-day life, good question. It's actually kind of related to this, because in order to go through this process ourselves as human beings, we do need to have a good habit set. So just as an example, I'll tell you one best thing, and I know we've heard this again and again, and you probably already know it. Start your day with some exercise. Start your day with some exercise. What this does, and a good nutritious meal, some high protein. All right, it doesn't have to be meat. If you're not a meat eater, it's fine. But some high protein and some exercise to start our day. It's incredibly important for the brain. It's kind of like a massage for the brain. It's like literally our brain produces chemicals that are like our natural pharmacy when we do that. And it does not have to be intense exercise. I know people are afraid of exercise. Do something that you enjoy. Hiking and walking, just walking, is such underrated exercise for brain productivity, for whole body health. It's so underrated. People say, oh, walking, stretching, that's not very practical, or it's not very intense, but it actually is. It ends up being very good for the core, for your muscles, everything. So yes, there are a whole bunch of hacks. Any good books? Well, okay, I will tell you another good book. Everybody thinks about Atomic Habits as a good book for building habits, and it is a good book. However, one more book that's very, very good for that people don't talk about as much. I don't know why people don't talk about it as much, but it's by Charles Duhigg, and it's The Power of Habit. Have you ever read The Power of Habit? Great book. It's also just as helpful, or more so, than Atomic Habits in many ways. So I would check out that book by Charles Duhigg. It's called The Power of Habit. Very, very practical. Very practical. So principle number 5, iteration. So, oh yes, you read it. Honestly, I think those are two of the best. Yeah. I've heard about, yeah, Power of Habits. Good, Clara. Yeah, you definitely should check it out. So I'm trying to think of others. Aman, you know what? Hit me up on. I can't think of others at the moment that are like specific to habits. Oh, there are though. I just can't remember the titles. But feel free to reach out to me by email or something like that, or reach out to me. I mean, you have access to my links on YouTube, and you guys on TikTok, you can, reach out to me. So if you have questions about anything or want more recommendations, feel free to reach out. But because I'll look up the information later and get back to you. But principle number 5, yeah, iteration. So embrace failure, embrace the process, embrace the process. It's all about learning. We let our emotions. I just kind of want to mention this. Why are machines so good at failing very fast? Why do they do it very, very fast? Why do they achieve the goals very, very fast? Because they don't let the emotions get in the way. So you see, our emotions, they're emotionless. They have no emotions. They just coldly go through the process. They don't think, oh, I'm a failure. I'm not good at this. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I'm no good, right? Machines don't think that way. And so because they don't have those thoughts, those inner thoughts, they move very, 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 very fast. They fail, and they don't have, these stupid internal thoughts that we have, this self-talk, and they move very fast. So I would try to, I'm not going to say get rid of our emotions or suppress our emotions. We shouldn't do that. But try to behave a little bit more like machines do, in that sense of moving fast from failure to failure to failure fast, right? Learn very fast. So last but not least here, I will just take a moment to just share this, guys. This is my Life Navigator system. I'm going to drop the link in, how to get command over emotions. Yeah, I will talk about that. So one moment, I actually will talk about that. Let me drop the link in the chat here. Let me talk about this, and then I'll get back to your question. The Life Navigator system is an amazing program I just launched a few months ago. I've taken 10 years of my experience or 15 years of my experience to put this all together. It's all about learning. It's customizing a personal development plan, customizing your own plan, getting that individual attention, whatever you're pursuing in life, whether it's a career change, whether it's doing better in university, or you want to be a change maker, you want to be the next leader in society, right, and making changes, whatever that is the first part, helping you customize that personal development plan. The second part of this program is skill mastery, where we customize a curriculum and a study plan for you for whatever skill gap you have. Let's say you need to learn for your goal that you're pursuing, you need to learn sales, you need to learn marketing. Maybe you need to learn communication. Maybe you need to learn French, a foreign language, or something like that. This whole process will take you through how to do that and how to learn it and develop the whole curriculum and resources for you. And then the third step is project completion, where now you've developed these skills, you've developed a full plan and approach to this. At this point, then we help you strategically connect to different people who might be, partners for you, investors, even clients, and also resources. So, and you can actually collaborate with people in our community. We have an amazing community of people that you will love to connect with. So click the link. I actually just, if you want to learn more about this, click the link that I just dropped in the chat. Or people who are on TikTok, you can see my link in bio and check that out. But to answer your question, and then I'll actually stop here. But to answer your question, Clara, how to get command over our emotions. I actually would love to hear a lot of people's ideas. How do you manage your own emotions? Do you feel like you are good at managing your emotions, or what do you do? Well, I will tell you one thing that I do to manage my emotions, and it may help you, but it may not. But I think it may help you if you don't already do it. I do two things, and I'm not going to pretend I don't feel bad sometimes. I will say, in my life nowadays, I do have a better overall happiness from day to day. However, it wasn't always that way. I was suffering a lot. I won't get into that all on this, but nowadays, if I have problems that pile up all at once, what I will do is I will make two columns, right? And it's very simple. I will just make two columns. I'll make one column on the left side, one column on the right side. One of I'll actually, it'll be out on paper. I write this out on paper. On the left side, I will list out problems. I'll just say problems. What's on my mind? What's a problem that I'm dealing with? What's a problem, right? I list them all out. Just get them all out on paper. If they're stuck in our heads, then they're torturing us, okay? But if they're all out on paper, we can deal with them. They're transparent. We're naming them. So if you go in psychology, right, part of what most psychologists will tell us is if we have problems, we're feeling a certain way, one of the best ways to start to control it is to name the emotion. And that's very, very true. So we're naming the problem, naming the emotion. On the right side, that column will be solutions. So start to write down 2 or 3 potential solutions to each problem. And it might be having a conversation with somebody. It might be, balancing a budget. It might be getting to that stack of papers on my desk. It might be texting somebody that I need to text. All of those problems, all of those solutions that we list, now choose one. Just go for it. Take action. And what taking action on it, and you could either schedule it. What I do is I schedule it in my calendar. So like, okay, if I have one of my solutions is deal with the papers on my desk, something like that. Well, then I'll schedule it in. If it's text somebody or call somebody, I might just text or call that person right away. Take care of it right away. If I can, right? If it's possible. But the idea of like scheduling in the solutions, now we're in control. Now it gives us that sense of control. Does that make sense? It gives us a greater sense of, okay, I got this. I have power over this, right? Another thing I love to do, I told you guys already, I journal every day, and it helps me kind of pour out my feelings and my emotions and manage them better. And it does. There's a lot of science on this. If you ever want to just look at the science on it, I won't even link you to a specific article. Go look up on Google Scholar psychological benefits of journaling. Journal. It's kind of a lost art. Just keep writing down our thoughts every day. It's extraordinarily therapeutic, right? Especially if you feel like, oh, I can't talk to somebody. Like I don't have anybody to confide in. For now, like you do want to find that person, but write to yourself, right? That's going to help you. And then the last thing I do, honestly, is I take some time. I know it sounds so cliche. Trust, it sounds so cliche, but it's true. It actually works. I take some time every few days. I won't say I do it every day. I won't lie. Every few days, I find myself maybe, in some negative emotions or some like, oh, this sucks. This is going wrong in my life or whatever. And then I'll catch myself and I'll say, okay, just be quiet. Like you're grateful. Be grateful for this in your life. And, I point them out to myself. Be grateful for this. Be grateful for that. Be grateful for this other thing. You have so much to be grateful for. And maybe, your life is not so great right now. I understand a lot of people are going through struggles, right? But find something. Maybe it's a person in your life that you're grateful for. Maybe it's a Maybe it's the fact, just the very fact that maybe you've got a roof over your head, right? That's something to be grateful for. Maybe you ate this morning. I mean, that's something to be grateful for. So take some time and just think about, like, okay, what am I grateful for? That actually helps me emotionally stabilize myself as well. So, and stay emotionally healthy, right? So I hope this helps you guys. I really do. And feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. If you're on TikTok, feel free to DM me. If you're on YouTube, you know where my links are. They're somewhere on my YouTube channel. You can find it. Reach out to me, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody. So, yeah, guys, I really enjoyed hanging out with you this morning. Have a great rest of your day, and make your life great. Use your critical thinking to control your life. Talk to you guys soon.